Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for spending this time with us today. Shannon, our producer, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Egberto?
So far, so good. But, you know, it was a crazy weekend. I got into a relapse mode with this sort of I don't know what kind of cold it was, but it kind of knocked me off key for the entire 4 days.
You burn at such a rate that you have to recharge.
But you know what? This was hard.
I believe it's hard for you to stop, but sometimes you just need to heal, Egberto.
You're absolutely right. But I heard today is the last day that we have Wonder Man here.
Yes, Stasio. This is going to be his last time by my side. Stasio, we're going to miss you.
We are going to miss you. I know you're heading back into what? Where are you going back to? That Deutschland? No, it's not.
The Netherlands.
The Netherlands. I just had to say it that way, you know?
You love getting it wrong, don't you?
I love getting it wrong, you know. But, man, it was, first of all, we want to all thank you for being here, for being a great volunteer here at KPFT. We needed you.
He's been such an asset, so thank you so much for being part of the team.
Absolutely so. Yeah, go team. Listen to him. Go team. But
with so much enthusiasm and passion.
I mean, you know these young folk. They like to play super cool. You know what I mean? And Shannon, what's that with those things on your ears again?
They're called earrings.
They're called earrings?
Yes, they're feather earrings.
They're feather earrings. I won't tell you what we called it earlier today, but, you know, I'd leave that one. But, folks, we are going to have a great show today. We're going to have a wonderful show today. The title of the show is Let's Not Let Russia Hyperventilate and Cloud the Suffering of Working Class America. And you'd hear what I mean. And every night, hi, Krista Cahill, how you doing? Folks, if you hear a little cough or whatever, do remember I'm still kind of recovering from that crazy thing that hits me over the weekend that really screwed up my entire activism career. But anyhow, let's go as follows. I am tired of the hyperventilating by the media and specifically progressives over the likely collusion between Trump and Russia at the expense of all else. Do you know that HHS Secretary Tom Price attempted to bring the Trump authoritarianism to the entire staff till 2 Republicans called him out? Did you know that the bridge that collapsed in Atlanta 45 days ago was rebuilt and opening next Monday, while for the past 5 years, people in Flint, Michigan have died and are still being poisoned by their tap water? Did you know that Trump intends to sabotage Obamacare in an attempt to force a tax cut bill with a facade of a healthcare bill? These are all things that rarely anybody's talking about. We're just so concentrated on what's happening in Russia and with Russia, the collusion with Donald Trump. But this is something I'm going to ask everybody. Let's say we impeach Trump. Let's say all of that is true about the Russian thing, which I think it is, by the way. What happens to working class America no matter what happens? What happens when, yay, we got Trump. Now Trump is impeached. What happens then? Did anything get better for working class America? This is where progressives need to start using their heads and not falling for the same old trappings. You know, Trump will always be okay. He'll whether he's impeached or not, he's not going to do any jail time. He would have made a lot of money leveraging the White House. All of that is true. What about working class America? Folks, what we have in this country is news malpractice. Our brothers and sisters are not dumb. They are ill and misinformed, and that is why we must be here. That is why the alternative community-supported radio must be here, to be the voice of the people and the voice to inform the people. So when you hear us asking you to make sure to always go to our kpft.org site and hit the tip jar and keep us on air. Ensure that we can always be funded to be able to tell you the things that you're going to hear today and throughout from other great hosts that we have at this station. When we ask you, folks, go to kpft.org and please keep stations like this alive. It is for reasons like this. It is for these specific reasons. Turn on TV right now, the TV right now. All you are hearing right now is Russia, Russia, and Russia. Do you know how much else is happening to hurt middle-class America? Do you know how much else is happening to hurt poor America? Do you know all these things that are occurring right now while we hyperventilate on Russia? If you're the liberal intelligentsia, you're happy. Oh, this is a great story. You already have a big paycheck that pays your bills and whatever you need to be able to have the time to spend on. I wonder what Russia is really intending on doing. But you know what? Working class America, poor America, none of this changes anything for them. So anyhow, folks, before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are The Monitor with
Mark Babawi every Monday at 7 p.m.
Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig, also on Mondays, but at 9 p.m.
And we have Partisan Gridlock with
Jeff Berg every Friday at 3 p.m. And all three of those are call-in shows.
Absolutely so. And we have Open Journal with
Marlo Blue, Dwayne Bradley, and Hetty Van Bagel. Her last day is tomorrow.
Yes, and that is Stesh's mother.
Yes, we're losing them both. It's going to be
a sad time around here. We're losing two of our greatest volunteers.
It's going to be hard.
I know.
To say the least.
Absolutely so. And of course, there is Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz at its best with
Juan Flores on Mondays at 10 p.m.
You got that right. And then there is The Human Condition at 3 p.m. followed by The Free Minstrel Show with Don and Dwayne at 4 p.m. on Fridays on the KPFT HD3 side of the equation of our station. But folks, check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is a listener-supported public community radio station, so please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by the
corporatocracy.
Absolutely so, my friends. This is KPFT 90.1 FM, Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. We want you to remember to use hashtag politics done right and go ahead and follow Twitter, Egberto Willies. You can listen to the live stream or listen to the podcast, vlogcast. Links are all on our website on politicsdoneright.com. So, folks, we are dependent on you. We promise you one thing. What you're going to hear here is the truth. Much of what you're going to hear here are things that the supposedly mainstream media should be telling you, but won't, because they as well are part of the cabal. But, folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. The title of the blog post is Progressives Blow in 2018 with Too Many Resources Relegated to Russia. I know a lot of people want to keep this Russia thing open, which I don't have a problem with, but I think we should all look at it in the appropriate context. So here is the blog of the week. Russia is a critical story, but it is neither the story that affects America's dinner table, health, or financial well-being. Many of us in the liberal intelligentsia love the intricacies of this story. After all, who would believe that the Republican leadership would be so soft on their patriotism that they are willing to put their heads in the sand and play dumb? It would do progressives well to remember a few realities. 52% of white women and 81% of white evangelicals voted the man who spoke about violating women, grabbing them by their genitals, imposing his physicality on them as he disregarded their humanity. The Trump voter knew that Trump had some relationship with the Russians. In fact, Fox News and Republicans were praising Vladimir Putin as a better leader than President Obama. The Trump voter saw a candidate that refused to criticize Putin, irrespective of whatever vile act he committed. Donald Trump swindled Trump University students. He stiffed vendors, employees, and much more. The Trump voter heard all of that. But a large percentage of Americans have so had it with the establishment of both parties that enough of them stayed home or voted for Trump and gave him an electoral college win. Trump never had stellar poll numbers. Never. He was never over 50%. So nobody can say, this guy can't win. Look at his numbers, because the polls means nothing these days with respect to Trump for very specific reason that we won't go into here, but is worth mentioning later. But he did not need to be popular. He just needed the votes in the right places to win. And you know what? The man got them. In watching the hyperventilation on Russia, it is clear that progressives are repeating the same mistakes of our last several elections that have decimated the Democratic bench throughout the state and the federal government. The People's Party, the Democrats, are out of step with the people. Nothing in the Russian story will improve the personal economies of working class Americans. It will not give them good health care. It will not rebuild infrastructure to provide jobs. It will not educate our children. So while working class America continue to suffer from subpar wages, while they continue to see their health care costs rise, they hear a narrative anathema to their reality. The liberal intelligentsia, the Democratic establishment, is concentrating on a subject that will do absolutely nothing to make their lives better, while at the same time giving President Charlatan, not President Trump, but President Charlatan, an excuse for his inability to accomplish anything for the working class. No one is asking that we ignore the Russian story. No, that's not the case here. That's not what we are saying. In fact, taking it off the front burner as folks build a substantive, evidence-based case would be much more effective. Think how impactful a breaking story that is well developed, where the Trump family's financial entanglements and collusion with Russia emerge. It would be much more effective than the daily Russian repetitiousness, which causes all but the political buffs to switch to the Food Channel, Discovery Channel, ESPN, or some other station break to said monotony. So, on what should the progressives' intelligentsia expend its resources? Education in a manner that is palatable to working class America. The three biggest Trump disruptive policies, Trump care, tax cuts, immigration, can be tied into a perfect economic narrative that tags Republicans for the charlatans that they are. Instead of spending time repeating the same old Russian story, go to every industrialized country and do reports with real people interacting with their healthcare systems, illustrating pricing and outcomes. You do that. Americans don't have to listen to Republicans tell them that socialized medicine doesn't work, or that the Canadian system or the British system or the French system or these other systems don't work. They can have real people telling stories, stuff that our own liberal intelligentsia, they're not doing. They're just talking stories and talking on TV. They're talking, rapping, saying all kinds of things, but they're not giving Americans meat to tell them, hey, it could be better, and there are places that are proven to you it could be better. That is what we should be doing. We should be out there telling the stories, bringing it to them in flesh and blood, so that they can see that the stories they've been told are lies, that they don't have to any longer believe it, because they have people they can contact and talk to and ask. What else can they do? Go to high-taxed industrialized countries and talk to working class people who can describe the social benefits they receive from their government. Do the mathematical analysis that shows that when Americans include their insurance costs, babysitting costs, elderly care costs, and other costs absorbed by the state, how much more efficient it is than some invisible source is capturing some unearned profit. Think about that. The shortage of farm workers created by Trump's xenophobic stance will ensure higher prices for our produce and other farm goods. That affects our pocketbook. So his xenophobia, his immigration stance affects our own personal economies. Americans need to understand that. And nobody's telling them that. What they hear continuously is the same repetitions, the same lies that because they hear it so much, it becomes a reality they believe is true. We don't have to go there, people. Our supposed progressive and liberal intelligentsia, our negligent parties should be doing these things. These are things that need to be done. It's not about your base only. It's about growing your base. It's about growing your base who really should be just about the entire middle class and poor, the vast majority of the country. But to do it, you have to work it. Most of us in the progressive intelligentsia know there is a fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats who truly believe in the Democratic platform. And the Democratic platform is a work of art. If you get a chance, read it. Unfortunately, rarely do the Democratic Party follow its own platform. The problem is that we are governed within a thin center that minimizes the differences, where many in the working class see a convergence into the establishment of little distinction. Many of us are hesitant to engage those who chose Trump because we simply know how flawed they are. A few weeks ago, I wrote the following, I hope more would heed. Many Americans are racist, some are homophobes, too many are sexist, and growing number are xenophobic. Misogyny still reigns. Americans are humans with all the frailty humanity brings. We will not fix these defects within our lifetime. So quit it. Quit thinking that somehow we are going to have to work on those problems first, and then we can work on people's personal economies, and then we can work on people's jobs. And it's not going to happen that way. We work on what we can work on now. Nobody's asking for anybody to love them. Nobody's asking to be somebody's friend by force. We don't need that. There are enough people and there are enough loved ones to worry about thyself and those people within your own sphere. But there are commonalities that a thread runs through us all, that we can work together irrespective of these issues. We can break the backs of the Republicans by avoiding an unachievable purity, by working on economic, health, and other commonalities, while refusing to allow our human defects from stopping all progress. It can be done. Here is an aside that liberals should note. I've been to many Netroots conferences, the biggest liberal gathering of bloggers throughout this country, or in fact, the biggest liberal bloggers in the world. We meet every year. In fact, we're going to be meeting in Atlanta in August. And I've been to a couple Tea Party conferences as well. This black Caribbean Latino with a Panamanian accent was treated better at a Tea Party conference than at a Netroots conference when outside of my Daily Coast clique. In fact, I wrote about one shocking experience at Netroots Nation 2015 that is worth a read. Look, of course the Tea Party was trying to make a point with me. Of course they were using me. Of course they wanted to show me that they're not who people like me write about them, about who they are. Yes, they want me to believe that. And they treated me as such. But my point is, when that is exactly my point. We can suppress our bad urges when we want to accomplish a common goal. And like I said, we're not looking for other people to love us. We're not looking for other people to like us or to be their friends or to have dinner with. We want to make sure all our personal economies can do better, because if our personal economies are doing fine and we can live a happy life, who cares who likes you or don't like you, or who cares about those issues? Social justice issues have an interesting scenario that is generally magnified by economic pain. We ought to be smart. We ought to think about these things. Liberals will do well to read the Politico piece titled "Why Liberals Aren't as Tolerant as They Think," which may open the eyes of those willing to self-examine. I love to self-examine. When I screw up, I love to come out and say, hey, guys, guess what? I screwed up. You know why? It helps you. It is liberating. It's something we work on within our own local progressive groups that all of us should try or an attempt to practice. If progressives don't change our game now, we would have squandered the opportunity to take our House and the Senate in 2018 and the presidency in 2020. Republicans care less about losing Trump than we do. Man, they'll throw Trump under the bus so darn fast, it ain't funny. As soon as they realize it's a real sinking ship, they'll dump Trump in a minute. Trump is not really one of them. Trump just has a base that they want. But they don't care about Trump. But we sure do. We hate him so much. We want to invest everything to bring him down and in the process forgetting about the working class American. Forgetting about your brothers and your sisters who, whether Trump falls on his face or not, will still endure the pain that they're enduring right now. They will be happy with President Pence and the semblance of a Republican ultra-conservative rebirth. And so far, they can sell a bad product much better than we are able to sell a good product. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. We have a lot of open lines. 713-526-5738. Let's talk. I want to hear your thoughts about it. This is a very, very important subject. And boy, do we want to hear from you. Let's go ahead and start with línea número uno, line number 1. Scott, come on in.
Hello?
Come on in, Scott.
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, I grew up hearing that Democrats enabled Joseph Stalin. That was especially back in the 50s.
Right.
Well, actually, Stalin died in 1953, so it was around 1950 and a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, the Republicans were pretty successful at discrediting the left.
Right.
Yes. Now we are in the position where there is a foreign Russian dictator or authoritarian,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the right wing that is suspect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't let go. I wouldn't let go of that. And you seem to want more positive things from government. Well, there are things that I want from government, but I think I'm more skeptical than you about government. I think economic reforms would have to be brought in rather incrementally. I read a book, 52 Reasons for Voting for Hillary, and it is a good agenda for economic reform, I think, but it would take more than 8 years. It would take a lot of public support. I don't see that kind of public support. I see a lot of the public voting only in presidential elections, if even those, and I don't buy the idea. I've been hearing the last 40 years that Democrats need to have a reason to go and vote. I think that is a failed meme. I think I grew up hearing my Republican parents declare they voted in every election they got.
Well, let me stop you there, Scott. And first of all, kind of say I agree with you to some extent about why do we have to say things like Democrats need to have a reason to vote. Well, then you think back a bit and you have to say, well, folks figure, why waste my time to go vote if everything is going to stay the same? And what we have to do as progressives are to go out there and make the case for change. When it comes to what you just said about having less faith in government, anytime I hear somebody say they have less faith in government, that is tantamount to saying I have less faith in myself. And until we start thinking about government in that modal, until we start thinking about not saying government is bad, but saying if government is bad, it means we are bad. It means we are not doing our job. We have to take back what the intent of government really is, we the people. So I do not and will never accept as a concept that government is some external entity that we don't have control over, because I am of a firm belief that government is us. And until we go back to school and learn civics and realize that we must make government us and not be fearful of government. Remember, the only people that don't want us to believe that government is us is a plutocracy who wants to ensure that they are more powerful than the government, because what it means then is they are more powerful than the people.
Wait a minute. How about the war on drugs? I
Yes.
certainly don't think it is me.
No, it's not. Let me tell you about the war on drugs. If enough people were to come out there and say, we know the war on drugs is a failure, stop it now or you're voted out, then we will have a different set of policies for drug addiction and that sort of thing. But the one thing that we have not done as a country, as the people within a country, is assert our worth. We have to assert our worth and realize that we are the ones in control, and we are the ones who tell this is the type of drug policy we want. It doesn't come down from Jeff Sessions, who decides that marijuana is a bad thing and people should lose the rest of their life because they smoked a joint.
Okay.
So we have to do that, but we have to understand that we can. And what they from the Powell Manifesto right down have been successful in doing is telling Americans that you're just spectators in this sport. We, the government, who's controlled by the plutocracy, are the ones that are dictating. Once we get out of that model, we'll be fine. I got to go to the other call, Scott.
I have one other thing.
Yeah, real quickly, my friend.
I certainly want a single-payer system.
Yes.
But I would not want it to lead to a massive and expensive bureaucracy. I am sure that Republicans would jump at making that charge.
Now let me correct one thing that you just said. You don't want you want a single payer system. You would prefer it not be a large bureaucracy, which I think. Let me finish.
I want it to cost less money.
I agree.
Than the status quo.
You're absolutely correct,
Net
sir.
Cost.
You're absolutely correct, my friend. But we have to remember, we have a humongous bureaucracy called the private health insurance industry that is much more and it's much more expensive than any single payer system in the world, bar none. Thank you so kindly for calling, Scott. You keep listening, you keep calling. Love to hear your voice, my friend.
Thank
you have a good one. Okay, let's jump to line number 3. John, come on in, John.
Good afternoon, Egberto. How you doing?
All right, my friend. Talk to me, sir.
Yeah, I called in both days last week.
Right.
You hosted shows on this station. I also called in your podcast. Totally agreed with you 100%. This week, I totally disagree with you completely and thoroughly. When you say that this is hyperventilating,
yes.
This is one of the biggest stories. And I'm not saying that the health care story and Trump's tax cut, I mean, those are huge stories too. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is this could be the slippery slope to an authoritarian rule.
Yes.
I mean, what Trump did, firing the person who is investigating his campaign is such a huge story. And I think that you're underestimating the fact of how big this story is. And I think the reason you're doing this, I mean, and I don't mean to get too personal here, but I mean, I do know you pretty well, right? I mean, I've been speaking with you for about 4 years.
And not only that, I love your criticism, so go ahead and give it to me.
Okay, it's because you don't focus enough on human rights. Mm-hmm. Human rights is your one weakness that you don't really seem that concerned about. And I'll back it up by conversations we had about your coverage of Ukraine and the way you portrayed this as a coup, which a lot of people on the far left did. Unfortunately, and I think one of the main reasons why that happened is because Putin targets the far left and a lot of people believe his conspiracy theories.
Okay, can I respond real quickly?
Sure.
First of all, I know that you know me very well, and I think you're wrong in believing that I don't believe in human rights. I'm a strong human rights proponent. I know the problem we had with Ukraine, and that is still sort of nebulous for me as far as the Ukraine issue. So I don't want to go into that because that would be a change of subject. But I accept that is what you feel. Now, that said, I don't want to minimize how important I think the Russian story is at all. I don't. And I don't think you care any more about the Russian story than I do. I really don't think that's the case. Now,
I do.
Let me tell you, the reason, I know you do, my friend, but I can tell you how serious I think the Russian case is. My problem is as follows. Let's say the Russian is as bad as you think it is, which I think it could possibly be worse, because I actually believe that Trump solicited the services of these guys to become president. Okay, I honestly believe that. Now that said, my concern is this: all of that may be true. Now, when we find that out and we impeach Trump and all of that, my contention is that there is so much damage that gets done while we're working on these issues that once again the middle class, the working class, get left behind. So what I'm proposing within the blog post that I gave was to say the following: do not minimize the Russian issue. But there's no new information that is coming out 24/7. But we look at the news and we have it 24/7. The reason I started the beginning of, not my blog post, but the beginning of the subject on this matter is to illustrate three important things that are happening in the country right now that nobody is really talking about in any extensive way, that has a much more important impact on these working class people who will be soliciting their votes in 2018. So I'm saying, let's work hard on these guys and let's continue the Russian thing, but let's build the case. Let's not put all our resources, and look at the title of the blog again, let's not pull all our resources into Russia, and when Russia is over, we would have left the middle class again hanging. That's all. I think in the process you have to stop believing that somehow I am trying to minimize Russia as opposed to enhancing everything else. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, I just don't see how resources are being put into Russia as far as the 2018
let me tell you,
election. I think that,
let me tell you how. You just asked the question. I'll tell you how. Right now, we have all those talking heads on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC on these panels just talking about Russia. What I would love for them is, let's take half of these people on these panels and send them to France, send them to Australia, send them to New Zealand, send them to Finland, send them to all these other countries. Let them do some 30-minute spots with real people and their healthcare system. Let them do some spots with real people and the other things within their high tax regions. I want them to be out there doing things so that they have material to put in between all this Russian stuff. So at the same time they're telling them how bad Trump is with Russia, at the same time we're educating people so that when we are done with the Russian thing, we can come back and say, hey, this is a better way, and we are going to bring it to you. While we are hyperventilating on Russia, we're doing nothing to educate our base. Nothing. That's
right.
What I'm saying.
The reason in your opinion, we're hyperventilating on this, and I totally disagree. I mean, I think it's getting the absolute proper amount of coverage. Is that this is, what Trump has done is unbelievable, and we don't even know if these hearings are actually going to yield anything.
Right.
I mean, we don't know if Rosenstein, the assistant GA, or this new guy who was put in, McCabe, are they going to be Trump loyalists or not? Is he going to shut this down or not?
He's going to try.
We don't know that.
I know that he's going to try. We know that he's going to try to do that, John. We know that. That's why he fired the guy from the FBI. That's why he fired the guy. But John, my lines are completely filled up, and we're going to finish this talk on the other show. Okay?
Can I make one more point?
Sure, sir.
This is actually a positive effect for the 2018 election. Trump's numbers are very likely going to go down.
We'll talk
because of this.
We'll talk about this on Saturday. We'll talk about this further on Saturday, my friend. But look, thank you for calling, and your critical voice is always welcomed. Okay?
All right.
Take care, my brother. All right, we got to go to a quick break. Then I'm coming to all you guys on the line, so stick with me.
Thank you, Egberto, and good afternoon. It is currently 82 and mostly cloudy skies. There's about a 40% chance of rain and some storms today into tonight. That's in advance of a cold front that's moving on through. Most of the severe storms are expected to form northwest of Houston. And mostly cloudy tonight with a low around 71. There's a 30% chance of thunderstorms during the early morning hours. That's around between 3 and 8 a.m. Some of these storms may produce some heavy rainfall. And then as the day progresses, Friday, it'll cloudy through the mid-morning, then gradually clear with a high near 86. And let's take a brief look at our roadways. There's a few accidents around town to be aware of. On the North Freeway outbound, right before Aldine Bender, there's an accident affecting the left lane and shoulder there. And on Tomball Parkway, inbound right before Beltway 8, there's road debris affecting 2 center lanes. Traffic's backed up on the South Loop eastbound due to an earlier accident over off of Manchester Street. That was a heavy truck accident. It's backed up to Crestmont. And traffic on the loop, West Loop in both directions from Evergreen up to the Katy Freeway, and that extends northbound over to Irvington. And that's a look at your Houston area weather and traffic. I'm Shannon McCurchie, and you're listening to KPFT Houston 90.1. Back to you, Egberto.
Muchísimas gracias, Shannon. Okay, let's go to line number 2 with Anthony. Come on in, Anthony.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Anthony, I can hear you.
All right. I'm talking to my car's Bluetooth, so if you're getting feedback, I apologize.
No problem, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay. The Democrats have specifically 2 problems.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is I'm going to go tap into the economic side, okay?
Okay.
And their issue with incrementalism.
Okay.
Let's use the comparison between the American Health Care Act and the ACA.
Right.
The ACA took, a year and a half to pass through a majority Senate and House?
Mm-hmm.
While the American Health Care Act took, a week?
About a week, yeah.
Okay, when Republicans get in office, it is jammed through with their agenda, no stop, no breaks, Trump train all the freaking way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The Democrats have all the power. It's like, no, we must tiptoe. We can't upset the voter base. We can't do this. We can't do that. You
know something, Anthony? I want to stop you right there to first of all commend you on a great observation, okay? And that is important. That statement that you made is important for this reason. We are constantly, as the establishment Democratic Party, like I mentioned in the blog post, our Democratic the Democratic platform is a near perfect document. All right, it's a document who speaks the values of true progressivism. However, the establishment of the party has never bought into that document. And that is the reasons why we even got Obamacare that was still based on making a few people rich in the healthcare industry. Look, I accept Obamacare. We need Obamacare. We need to maintain Obamacare until we get to a single-payer healthcare system. I'm on board. But it was a terrible compromise that the President Obama then had to make because of an establishment Democratic Party too hell-bent to support the plutocracy just as much as the establishment Republican Party. The only difference is one has a heart and one does not. Continue, my friend.
Okay, now the second part is on the social issues of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
We focus way too much on social justice. And what I mean by that, not enough on economics. And what I mean by that is the coal miner in West Virginia suffering from black lung disease, who recently just got laid off his job because of automation of the coal industry.
Right.
Does not want to hear about his white privilege when he's having to work 2 minimum wage jobs. He does not care about if someone's transgender daughter can get an abortion. He cares about his kitchen table.
I understand exactly what you're saying, and I need to respond immediately. First of all, it is important that if you notice within my blog post, I alluded to that. I alluded to all the isms that we suffer, both liberals, Democrats, and otherwise, the racism, sexism, genderism, every kind of the isms that we suffer. I am not going to sit down and agree with you and say that I feel this great pain because this coal miner, who does in fact have this thing called white privilege, is having it so hard, because the reason he's having it so hard is that the false concept of race in this country is what created what created our divide. And not only that, it is that what has kept the plutocracy in power. Now, that said, if you listen to what I said in the blog, I said forget about those issues in exactly as you said, with one exception. Social justice, you better be careful there, because social justice talks about the law. And there's no compromises on the law. But as far as being nice to other people, as far as things are saying, well, he called me the N-word, or as far as we talk about this other person using some other kind of derogatory word for a gay person, for a straight person, for a black person, for a Latino person, those are issues that are deep embedded in the culture. They are bad, but it should never stop us from moving ahead to help that coal miner, to help that black person in some other part of the region, or anybody else. There are more commonalities between Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios than there are between Trump Tower and Appalachia. Okay?
Exactly, and I agree with you.
And so what I'm saying,
we spend so much time on the left,
right? But I don't want
who are not pure with us, but we'll attack people who think economically different.
Anthony, what I don't want to give you a pass at is the white privilege thing, or the men privilege thing, and all these other privileges, because there are these privileges. As a man, if I go to certain areas with a woman, because of my manhood, there are certain privileges that I have that I need to rescind. The same applies when I say rescind. I need to be cognizant of. The same appear with white people in certain situations. But we're not going to be able to tell, as you mentioned so eloquently, that coal miner who is working 2 jobs somehow not putting his privilege in the proper context screws you more so than if you go ahead and forget that issue. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. And
I do. I'm not saying forget about social issues. I'm just saying that we pound on it.
Right. Much. And you know what? Again, if you follow my blog, and the blog of the week, I ask you to read it again, because we cover exactly that. I am not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to be the friend of everybody that suffer from these isms. What I do want to do is I want to work with all of you. I want to work with the racist. I want to work with the nice person. I want to work with the good person. I want to work with everybody, because that is how we beat the plutocracy. And in doing so, believe it or not, all those isms eventually will melt away. Thank you, my brother, for calling, okay?
Not a problem. One more thing.
Real quick.
Economic justice bleeds into social justice.
Right. You know something? That is something I wish more people would think about. And I think you just mirrored something else that I said. You have a wonderful day, my friend.
You too.
All right, let's go to Alex, line number 4. I'm going to have to do it a little quicker, my friend. Come on in, Alex. How you doing?
Hi, Alberto. Well, first off, I want to respond to what the last caller said. The coal miner should be cognizant of, I don't even consider it white privilege, because privilege is kind of a dirty word in my eyes as far as class analysis goes. He's had centuries of things built upon for white people. Mm-hmm. And Harry Haywood, who's a great writer, has written about how the areas that are the most white supremacist suffer the greatest, white people suffer the greatest in the areas where white supremacy is the most.
Exactly.
Where they don't band together, where they don't support their black brothers and brown brothers and sisters. That's where people suffer the most, is where racism is the most prevalent. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's something people should not write off as unimportant. And I definitely agree that we need to talk about class more, because that is always that you can look at who benefits. We can talk. I actually wanted to talk about Russia because I think the Russian narrative is flipped entirely. It's basically, we've been trying to attack Russia since 1917 after the Bolshevik Revolution. We don't want the developing nations to develop free from the Western oligarchs and capitalists. So we are constantly embattling them on their borders. That's what Ukraine is. Ukraine has a large fascist majority in their government right now. They are trying a 94-year-old Soviet soldier who was only accused of murdering a former Nazi collaborator in 1952. They're pulling a 94-year-old Jewish Soviet Union soldier and putting him on trial at 94 years old. And you tell me something's not wrong in Ukraine right now.
Let me just say one thing that I disagree with you on, okay? And that is, you see, you make a big distinction between Russia and America and all these other issues. And I think my good friend John, sometimes when I make these issues, do the same, right? But when I look at the oligarchs in Russia and I look at what I call the oligarchs in America, right, there is not much distinction except for certain types of brutalities that we don't see here in America. But given that I'm from another part of the world and I've seen the brutality of Western countries in the way they affect policies, whether it's bauxite in Trinidad, in Jamaica, or copper in Panama, and all these other places where different types of Western brutality was used, just like we accuse the brutality of the oligarchs in Russia. I don't fall. Again, the reason I'm not. First of all, what Trump and Russia is doing is a bad thing. But the reason I don't really sit down and hyperventilate, and that is that the Russians and American oligarchs are going to sit down and have coffee and laugh together at us as we fight each other about this issue. Okay? So I am not very, very much concerned about how we get, to put it bluntly, to get to the truth. But what I want to take care of doing is making sure whatever occurs, we are working to help the middle class and the working class. So that's where I may have a little bit of difference with you, Alex.
Sure, but you need to recognize that the Western European and America, they're completely different, actually, than Russia and China developmentally, in that they only threw off slavery from the monarchy in the 20th century, and they've been being attacked and embattled constantly to get their resources, and they've always fought back. I'm not saying Putin's great.
I know.
But he has sided with Bashar al-Assad, who has been fighting terrorists on all sides, and even when they were accused of violating air, like attacking.
I get your point, civilians. Alex, I really get your point, and I
don't think you do.
I honestly
think you think I'm hyperventilating.
No,
really
Alex, I don't.
Attack it.
Alex, I don't. I listen quite well to every single one of my callers because I like to hear the different points of views. And not only that, later on, I also do analyze what I hear from other people to make it a part of the narrative where necessary. So no, what you're saying, I take just like what John says. As much as I disagree with him, I listen. Okay?
Sure.
So
what I'm saying is Russia has not been involved in 90 countries. I have bases set up everywhere. Like it's not a fair comparison to compare Russia and the U.S.
I was comparing.
Even if they have oligarchs,
right?
They're far poorer than the average American.
We'll talk about that another time, Alex, because I have 7 calls and I have 8 minutes. Okay, so really, I appreciate your call, but we got to get to the other calls. Thank you, my friend. Sure. Okay, let's go to Aaron on line number 5. Come on in, Aaron.
Hey, how you doing?
Talk to me, sir.
I just wanted to, like some of your other callers, I wanted to bring up Russia as well, just real quick.
Yes, sir.
One thing I think that the left is definitely failing to recognize is Podesta, his role with, I don't know if you've heard of Rus Nano. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's actually a company that was founded by Vladimir Putin that took John Podesta, some companies that he was on the board with, took millions and millions of dollars from them. One of your other callers brought up human rights violations with Russia, and I wonder if you guys would ever consider speaking about Haiti, the Clinton Foundation's role there, and how much the Haitians absolutely hate the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton herself.
I know the stories, yeah.
What about the story about Laura Silsby? Are you aware of that?
No, that one I'm not aware of, sir.
Okay, Laura Silsby was caught trying to smuggle 33 children out of Haiti and was caught, and Hillary Clinton absolutely tried to defend her. And the whole Russian narrative is pretty hilarious. I mean, have you even heard of the Podesta story?
Yes, I heard the Podesta story, but I can't go into all these little stories now because not little stories, but stories right now, my friend. Because
they're very little stories. I guess Trump. What's been proven about Trump, his collusion with Russia? Name one thing. You're gonna say Flynn? Because Flynn's gone.
Right. We'll talk about that another time, Aaron. You know when we're on. Plus, we are on Saturdays as well.
Oh yeah, you don't want to talk to me. I bet InfoWars is the forbidden information.
Yes.
Infowars.com. Check it out, guys.
Thank you, my friend. InfoWars though is kind of a joke, but go ahead, my friend. Let's go to line number 6. Johnny, come on in.
InfoWars, really.
Give
me a break.
All right. Talk to me, Johnny.
Real
quick, my friend.
I agree with you on two of your major points.
Yes, sir.
People, the so-called white trash or poor white people in Appalachia or elsewhere have way more in common with poor black people than either Hillary Clinton or especially any Republican politician has with their voting base.
Yes.
That's true. The second thing I agree with is what you said earlier about the Democratic Party documents.
Right.
For example, they were not wasted upon me, but he was strongly interesting to get out there.
You're breaking up, Johnny.
And I politely listened and I kind of smiled, but I didn't need to hear that kind of stuff because if he's going to lecture me about the Democratic Party platform and ideals, then they need to get Hillary Clinton to start practicing them, or they should have at that time.
Well, let me tell you, Johnny, we need to get all Democrats to practice what's on the platform, period.
A third thing that I would like to add, are you with me?
Yes, go ahead real quickly, please.
If Barack Obama had behaved more like an angry black man, and he had the mandate, he could have gotten away with it, believe it or not, even if he had waited until his second term. So the next time, if we have a next time, where the Democratic Party actually has someone that wins the White House, let that please be a black man is just as smart as the first one we had, but has an attitude more like Chris Rock. Because in part, not in total, but in part, because Barack Obama was way too nice. He was afraid of being perceived as an angry black man. And when you give Republicans an inch, what do they take?
A mile.
3 miles.
Yeah. Now, Johnny, I got to let you go.
Not a yard,
Brother Johnny.
That's 3 miles, and they're working on 10.
Brother Johnny, I got to let you go, but I hear you, and I'll talk to you about the angry black man some other time.
Numbers don't lie.
Yes, sir.
Healthcare.
All right.
Republicans do.
All right. You have a great one, Johnny, okay? And thanks for calling. Let's go to line number 1, Tag.
Hey, Edberto, I want to say real quick that when things like this Russian thing comes up,
yes, sir.
I think we really need to look past the smoke screen and see what's going on that's really more important, which is the health care issue and maybe even things like sending our boys back to Afghanistan or someplace. So with that, I'll let you go. I know you're in a hurry. Thanks, Egberto.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Tag. Okay, let's go to John, line number 3. John, come on in.
Good afternoon, Egberto. I'll make this real quick.
Yes, sir.
I will just say this on the Russia issue from the opposite side of the fence.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, you better hope they find something.
Well,
because and let me finish, and then because I know you got to go. If they can't hang this around Trump's neck in 2018 and 2020, they will campaign on the forgotten man not getting anything done by Trump for him because the Democrats kept throwing Russia interference.
Now,
and they're going to hang that around their neck if you all don't come up with
you are right. And if you read my blog, that's exactly what I said in the blog. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Because if something goes down, what happens next? Read my blog of the week and you'll see that statement in there, my friend.
Yep, but if they don't find anything, it's going to be hung around the neck like an anchor.
Thank you, friend. You have a good one. Okay, John?
Bye, bud.
All right, let's go to line number 2. John, come on in.
Hello, Alberto.
Yes, sir. Come on in, my friend.
Hi, Albert. Hey, I noticed that y'all talk about the white privilege. Don't you think that since the 1960s that the white privilege has been dying?
Say that again. I didn't understand the word, my friend.
I'm saying, would you talk about the privilege, the white privilege?
White privilege, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, don't you think it's dying? Because as far as I'm concerned, modern time is more of a who you know than per se what you know or what you are.
Well, let me tell you something, this I can actually speak from personal experience, right? I'm a black Caribbean Latino dude, all right? That is a nice person, never violent and do nothing wrong per se, all right? Right. If there isn't white privilege, there is no reason whenever I walk into stores today even that I am followed, okay? And that somebody that other people that doesn't that share my pigmentation don't suffer the same cause. So I when somebody white privilege may be a bad word to use because it's sort of not vogue anymore, but the reality is no. The reality is if you look a certain way and you go certain places, you suffer from that the lack of that privilege. And
I
that's a
I
fact.
see what you're saying, but
Yes.
that's more a stereotype or maybe certain.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Because
It doesn't matter if it's a stereotype. It affects me. It affects my daughter. It affects everybody who looks like me. It affects them. So when you sit down and try to tell one of us that somehow that privilege that we talk about people having isn't really there, that is not true. Let's accept the realities first, and then we can move on. Now, I am not the type that sit down and worry about it. I don't really give a damn about it, to put it bluntly, because I know who I am. But there are a lot of people who it messes with their psyche, and those are the people I have to fight for. I don't have to fight for me. I don't care what the hell you tell me, right? You can call me whatever you want to call me. I don't care, because I know who I am. But most people don't have that back-end that allows them to be in that modal. And that's who I am there to defend. And that goes for everybody, whether you have white privilege or not.
But and I'm not saying it cops and anybody else does that. But what I'm saying, I'm an Asian guy, right?
Yes.
And I joke around with my white friends. I'll tell them, you know what? Cops would be more at ease with me than you white guys. You know what they say? That's true.
Right. That's your Asian privilege then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you accept that that is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then we are in a complete agreement, my dear friend.
Well, what I'm saying is, we all get stereotyped positively and negatively.
I don't disagree with that. And what we have to learn as a society is to mitigate those issues, right?
Right.
So you have a great day, John. I'd love to keep listening, keep calling, and we'll talk another time. But Shannon is giving me the look, okay?
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
So we're going to have another glimpse at our commute and weather right before we leave today's show. It's currently 84 degrees and mostly cloudy skies. It feels like 89 out there. 40% chance of scattered thunderstorms developing late tonight into the early morning hours in advance of a cold front. And some of these storms may produce heavy rainfall. Mostly cloudy tonight with a low around 71 degrees and mostly cloudy Friday. Then it gradually becomes more of a sunny day, high near 86. And let's take a brief look at our roadways. On the North Freeway outbound, right at Aldine Bender, there's an accident affecting the center lane to left shoulder. That's backing up traffic to Cavalcade. And on Tomball Parkway inbound, right before Beltway 8, there's road debris affecting 2 center lanes. That has traffic backed up to Perry. And there's a few accidents on the West Loop, one northbound at West Park affecting the right shoulder there, and another southbound at Post Oak. That's backing up traffic to the Katy Freeway. And just starting to get a little bit backed up on 288 outbound from Old Spanish Trail out to Orem. That's Look Your Houston area weather and traffic. I'm Shannon McCurchie. Back to you, Egberto.
Well, folks, this is near the end of our show, if not the end of our show. I thank you for the spirited conversation that we had. And remember, it's not about us agreeing on everything. It's about us being able to dialogue, and not only dialogue, but hear each other, what each other's thoughts are. That is how we do it. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and I am out.
Sending an email to Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.